Welcome guys, this is part 8 of ASP.NET MVC series. In this part we will understand the different methods, how to send data from view to controller action method. In our previous videos we learned how to send data from view to controller when we were trying to send a list of object to overview, but in this video I will show you how to send data from view to controller. So let's say you are creating a new student. Before that, let me show you one thing. We have 5 different methods to send data from a view to controller. So one method is by parameters, second method is by using FormCollection, model class object, UpdateModel function, TryUpdateModel function. So whatever the method you are using, it's upon the constraints of your logic, and it's up to you. So we have to understand all the methods one by one, so that we may use these methods somewhere in our application whenever we need them. So let's understand them by an example. So I will be working with the example that we are working in from previous videos. So if you are familiar with how to create a new record, let me first show you what is the model class that I am using. I have this student model class. Let me show you the model class. This is the student model class. I have these properties inside my model class. It has got ID, name, gender, and department ID. And next one is our student context class for the communication. This provides the communication facility to our database. So whenever we want to communicate to our database, we will use the object of this class. So let me go back to my student controller, and we know that the create HTTP get method is used to prepare a view, and the post method accepts the post method of the create view accepts the data. So the post method is somewhere here. Let me cut it from here and paste exactly below the HTTP get method, so that we may reference them side by side. So let me run the project, and let me make you understand what is the requirement, what is basically the requirement that we need to address in this video. So when I just hit student/create URL, the HTTP get method gets invoked. This is the HTTP get method which will be invoked when we write this URL, and this create action method has got a view. So its view is this one. I'm going to view of it. So what does this do? This view is accepting the student as a model reference, and then it is preparing a form, html.begin form, and inside that we have got the text boxes for name, gender, city, name, gender, mobile, and department ID. So this is the form that we get when we redirect to this URL. Now question is that when I fill this information over here, now we want this information to be sent to some controller action method. So why we need that? Because if we do not send this information to some controller action method, how can we insert this information to the database? So this is the reason we want this data, this view data, to be sent to some action method, and from there we can insert it into the database table. So whenever we know that it is the MVC convention that this is the get method, right? Whenever the form data will be clicked save, I mean to say when I will click save, it will automatically send these all values to the respective post action method. This is create get method and this is create post method. So this form automatically will send this data to this form. Now to accept this data on this action method, we have got these methods. You can use these methods to accept data from this view to this action method, and when you have accepted this data over here, you can write a query and you can save it to the database. So I have already implemented this one, but one of my students was asking me to rewrite to explain all the methods to accept data from view to a controller's action method. So I have already made this video. This is video number 5 of this series. So if you want to watch that video, you can watch that. But now in this video I just want to create a new student, and I will use these all methods to create the student. So let me first tell you how can I use the parameters method. So as I have already showed you that this is these are the parameters, these are the attributes of my student class. So what are the values I am passing? Name, gender, mobile and department ID. Now notice that the department ID has got int as data type. Now one method is I can use the parameters. So let me show you how can we accept this data using parameters. So this is very simple. Just you need to notice that we have to accept name, gender, mobile and department ID, because ID is auto incremented, this one, and we do not need to pass the ID, because whenever we insert some data to the database, we do not pass the ID value because it is auto incremented and we do not need to tell the value explicitly. So let me go back to student controller, and here we should write those parameters over here. So let me, what if I just comment it or copy it and commented it, I comment it and again I just paste it over here. I just delete. Now I pass parameters over here. First one is name, then gender, then mobile. All these parameters are of type string, and the fourth one did is of type int. So let's quickly add these parameters over here. String name, string gender, string gender and mobile, and last one is int type did. So that's it, and return view. Now to save it to the database, we have to create a student object. S is equal to new student, and we pass these values one by one to the student object. Student dot name is equal to this posted value inside this name. So name, student dot gender is equal to this posted value of gender. Likewise, student dot mobile is equal to this posted mobile value is equal to mobile. Sorry, there is comma over here which is incorrect. Comma. Okay, mobile, and s dot did is equal to the posted id value mobile. Okay, now you should create a student context class to communicate to database and just save it. So just uncomment these lines. So we make a student object student context class object to communicate to database. Then we write the query db.students.add, and the object name is s, so we pass s over here, and then we save the changes. And if I save it and run the project, let's see whether it's working or not. So if it is working fine, it will add a new student which we will be creating now, and if there is some error, then we will have to recheck it, but it will surely do the job for us. So it's running. The student who has requested me to make this video, I think this video deserves a tea. So get ready for the tea, boy. So let's add a new record. Let me pass some name here, mobile, some mobile number over here, gender as male, and did let's say 6666, and I save it. So the record is saved successfully, but let me go to student list to verify it. So you can see here this we have successfully added this new student to the students table. So instead of returning view, we return redirect to this index section method, so that we whenever we create a student, it automatically redirects to this page. So for that, I just write return redirect to action index. So just copy this, and instead of returning a view, I just write here return redirect to index. Now whenever I will add new student, it will redirect to this list of students page. So let's quickly add a new student again, and let me show you that our parameter method is working fine. Go to student / create. Let's add some value over here, Ahmed, and gender male, mobile some id create. Now you can see that when this is created, this automatically redirects to this index page, and we are seeing that value. So this is the first method by parameters. Now the next method is using FormCollection object. So for that, I just to reserve this code, I just copy it, and I then just comment it, and I again paste it over here. This code is saved. Now I just use the FormCollection object over here. So FormCollection, and I just pass the FormCollection object name as f, and now we want to use this object, FormCollection object, to accept these values of this form. So whatever the value we are passing, we want to accept it using FormCollection object. So form collection object basically saves all the values in key value pairs. Like if here the text box here the label is name and this is the value, so it will save name as key and value, this value as, let me say, Yasir as value, and gender as key and male as value, and so on. So let me show you how to use this method. Now to use this method there is a bit of syntax difference. S.name is equal to, we want to populate the student object so that we can save it to the database. So for that, S.name is equal to the form collection object, and we have to pass the key value, the value of the key property. And again for gender we have to explicitly pass gender over here, and again for mobile we have to pass f form object f mobile value and f of department ID value. Okay, now cannot implicitly convert string to int. Now this form object retrieves the value in the form of strings, but we know that name is string, gender is string, mobile is string, so there is no problem on these 3 lines of code. But we know that the department ID is of type int, so we cannot assign string to integer, so that is why we have to convert it to int before assigning it to department ID. So convert dot to int 32 or 62, whatever you want to use, you can use it, and we pass this string to this method. So now it's fine. Now S object is prepared. Now we save it to the database, and that's it. Now first let me run the project and show you is it working or not, and then I will tell you the limitations of this method, the problems with this method. So let me quickly go to student / create method. So let's add some dummy value, mobile ID as some ID, and save it. Now you can see that there is some problem, that value was either too large or too small. We have to pass some small ID. Okay, now you can see that we have successfully used the second method, form collection, to accept data from view to controller. Now let me show you the limitation of this method. If I just pass some invalid key name here, we know that this is wrong key name, and there is no error checking over here, there is no compile time error checking over here. Now I have saved it, and if I rerun the project, and just to make you understand that this is this provides no compile time error checking, I have mistyped this name parameter value, key value. So this will mail mobile number ID and save it. Now you can see that there is entity validation errors because we have mistyped this name. So this is why we rarely use this form collection method, because one problem is that if we have 100 columns, we have to write 100 lines of code, and again 100 columns should be typed correctly, and you cannot even mistype a single character, because these keys, if if you mistype any key value, I mean to say the column value of some property, then you will find the error on runtime. So this is not a good approach, but this is the method you can use. So now if you are tired, you can have some break, and you can understand these two methods and practice it, and then you can continue. So now let's understand the next method. So before that, let me copy this, comment this method, and just paste this again over here. Now next method is using model class object, and this is very easy method, and this is normally used method. So for that, I just simply write student object s over here, and I do not need to again create the student object. All the things are just deleted. This is very easy method, and this is normally used method. So that's it. You are accepting this student object over here, and MVC automatically parses the name value to the student object's name value, and gender on gender, city on city. In simple words, this will automatically fill this object with the respective values of this form. Because these form values are of type student object, now we are directly accepting those values over here, and all you need to do, just save it to the database and save the changes and redirect to the index section method. So I run the project, and let me show you is it working or not. So this is the plus point of this method, that we do not need to write 10 lines of code or 100 lines of code for every column. So it's up to you. So now let's go to create and pass Yasir mail, mobile, some mobile number, and ID as 777, and just save it, and you can see that we have saved it. Okay, one thing that I have missed in previous method, FormCollection method, is that one method is to use key I mean to say key name of the property, and second method is by using index. So name is available on index 0, and gender is available on index 1. So you can write 1 over here instead of complete name, and mobile is at 3, and so on. But again, this is not a good approach. If you have 100 columns, you have to manually check that right, this is on 0th index, this is on 1th index, and so on. So I just wanted to tell you this is other method, you can use it. I just redo it and save it. Now we are using this model binding. You know, the third method is using model class object. Now one beauty of this method is also that, let me tell you, if I am using this mobile, I am getting this value of mobile over here, but for some reason I do not want this value to be posted to the section method, then how to do this? So if I do not want to accept the mobile value for some reason, I just write an attribute here, bind, and we just write here exclude, bind, and bind exclude, and here we have to pass that, Control Z, mobile. So what is the proper method of doing that? Let me check it, and let me Okay, bind exclude, the proper method is to place a bracket over here and over here, and we do not need to pass this bracket, and this one is like so, and this is not, that's it. And if you want to exclude some other value as well, you will just pass comma over here and pass, let's say I also do not want to accept the gender value over here. So what it will do, I will just show you by example. Bind exclude is equal to, now what is missing? Okay, the right method is to just pass a single string, but in there you just pass comma over here. So if you want to keep two values, like you do not want to accept gender and mobile on this action method, you can escape them. Let me show you by running it. So I just run the project, and you will see I will pass mobile and gender value, but the student will be saved without these values, even I am writing on this form. So to exclude the values from being posted from a form to from a view to a controller action method, you can use bind exclude attribute, and we also call this method as blacklisting, because we are blacklisting name and gender value. So let me pass A as name and B N as gender and mobile some mobile number and 4 as ID, and if I save it, you will see that this student is added, but gender and mobile value is null because it's empty, because we are excluding it. So now let me tell you another method. If I want to exclude 3 values out of 4, then what will I do? I will write another I also want to exclude name value. So it is not a good approach. You are excluding 3 values out of 4. Instead, in other words, you are only including, you are only accepting this department, the department ID value. So you are excluding 3 values but using this one value. So if this is the case, you just include this value and these 3 values will automatically be excluded. So you just exclude, include DID value, and all the rest of the values will be excluded. So this is up to you, and this method is known as this method is known as whitelisting as well. So it's up to you, whatever the method you want to use, you want to include or exclude some values, it's up to you. But if you do not specify bind, include or exclude attribute, by default all the values are posted to the student object. So if you do not pass this bind, include or exclude, this student object will be filled with all the values which are being written on the form. So let me create new, and let's add some values, but save it. Now there is some entity validation error, because we are telling that over, let me go to student class and let me show you one thing. The name value cannot be null. So if name value cannot be null, you cannot exclude it. So that is the reason this entity validation error is firing up. So if you just make it not required, or let me make it not required, save it and let me refresh it, go back, let me again save it. We have to rerun it. Let me rerun it, and let's check whether the name value is now posted or not. So technically, if you are using include attribute, the rest of the attributes will be excluded. I mean to say, only the list that you are preparing in this over here will be included, and rest of the properties will be excluded. But if you write exclude, only the properties that you write here will be excluded. But if you skip both the bind attribute altogether, then all the values will be filled in these objects. So it's up to you, whatever the method you want to use. So name, gender, mobile, and department ID. So now you can see that even I have written these values, name, gender, mobile, but department ID is not showing here because we are not showing the department ID over here. So that is the reason our bind include attribute has excluded the value. But again, if I just remove this bind attributes, now all the values will be posted, and you can run the project and you can re-verify it. So now we have learned three methods to send data from view to a controller action method. First one was using parameters, and second one was using FormCollection, and third one is using the model class object. And in this method we have also learned how to use blacklist and whitelist. So now you can see that all the values are posted because we have deleted that bind, include, or exclude property. Now the next method, before jumping to the next method, you can have some break, you can understand these concepts, and then you can click play. So let me comment it, paste it here again, and now we want to understand this update model method. Let me go back, and the syntax of update model is that we do not pass any kind of parameter, and we just write here update model, and we pass the object over here, but this object is nowhere declared. So we have to declare this object over here. Student s is equal to new student. So up till this line of code, the student object is null because we are creating it over here. But when this line of code will be executed, this will automatically fill the posted values to this object. So just let me save it and rerun the project. That's it. So this is, but there is a problem over here. What is the problem? We have to address this problem. It is saying that type student controller class already defines a method called create with the same parameter types, and it's true. This signature is similar to this signature, so we cannot overload two functions with same name with same parameters. We have to differentiate them by parameters, but in here we do not want to pass any kind of parameter to this post action method. So we have to change the name of this action method, create underscore post. But we know that by default MVC will send data of we know that MVC sends the data of HTTP get method. If it is create, it will always send the data to the create action method, the same name action method with post. But we have changed the name of this action method. So to convey our intention that its action name is create, we just pass this attribute over here and we write create over here. So now we are telling that the post action method of this get action method is this one. So now if it is create post, it will behind the scene work as create. So we have resolved this problem. So now if I run it, this will automatically update model function will automatically update the S objects name, gender and mobile and DID value by fetching the values from the form. So this is the fourth method by which we can send data from a view to a controller's action method. So it's so simple, we have to make a bit of changes. So let's quickly add some values. Male 03 is mobile number, department ID some department, sorry I have deleted them accidentally, mobile and DID as 886, and if I save it, you can see that over this method is also working. But one problem with this method is that when I click create and I just pass, let's say, department ID value and I save it, and if I make it required, let me go to the student class, and if I just make it required, please fill this name field, I save it, rerun it, it will throw an exception on runtime, but it should give the error message under the text box that the name field is required. It will fire the exception on runtime. So let's check it. Why is that? Let me create a new student and let me pass department ID and save it. You will see that this throws exception on this line of code, because this if the name value is missing, it should say the error message over here, but it's missing that. Even if I go to student controller, let me add a model validation error over here. If model state dot is valid, if model state is valid, in other words, if there is no property error, all the properties are satisfied, then I want to save this to the database and redirect to index action method. Otherwise I want to return a view and I want to go back to the same create action method, sorry, the same create view. So I want to return a view, that's it. So it will fire the error over here before checking the model validation errors. So because if it comes over here, it will show the meaningful error message under this text box, but before coming to this line of code, it fires the exception over here. So this is the limitation of the update model, and it will be recovered by TryUpdateModel. So before that, let me rerun it and let me show you again that this will not come to if statement, and before checking the model validation errors, it throws exception on update model function line of code. So this is the limitation of update model function. So the recovery of this problem is given by the TryUpdateModel function. So let me again write some values. Let me press 4 over here and click save. You can see that before checking the model state validations, it fires the exception on this line of code. So this is problematic. So if someone asks you what is the better method between update model and TryUpdate model, you will definitely say that TryUpdate model, because update model function throws exception over here. So I am going to tell you the TryUpdateModel function to accept data as well now. So just write try over here. So TryUpdateModel function. Now if I rerun the project, we will see the difference between update model and TryUpdateModel. So let me go to student/create. So if I do not pass the name value and I just pass the department ID value and I click save, now you can see that this is the difference between TryUpdateModel and UpdateModel, because TryUpdateModel gives us facility to fire these model validation errors. So if I fill the values, let me pass some name here, ABC, gender male, mobile this one, and if I save it, now you can see that our TryUpdateModel has successfully saved the data to the database. Yummy, 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 yummy. So boom, we have successfully learned these 5 methods to send data from a view to a controller's action method. So for now I am not giving the source code publicly because I am teaching to a class in university, so students just copy paste the stuff. So in a couple of months I will be sharing all the source codes to all the videos in the description. So for now I am not sharing the source code because students will copy paste and this will stop their learning. So the student who has requested me to make the video on all the methods to send data from a controller's action method, from a view to a controller's action method, that student must offer me a tea now. So it's not a good it's not a bad idea. So that's it for today, guys. Hope so in next video we will learn more new things and more new interesting stuff. So stay tuned, have a great day.